Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for the least listened to podcast on the globe, the Sixth Sense Media Podcast, with your host, Mike Phelan.
You can always bleep it out anyway.
Yeah. All right. So actually, I was really looking forward to this. Funnily enough, we had just watched Best in Show about a week ago, right before the invite came out, and I was like, "Wow, yeah, I'll jump on that, no problem." Yeah.
Good. Still works, doesn't it? Still works.
Yeah, and I was reading through your biography today, and what I found most interesting is when you broke into the BBC and you left headshots, and it didn't work for some reason. I don't know why.
It was an audacious thing. I mean, I was probably 22, 23, and I just had a stack of headshots. Yeah, and I somehow got past security and resumes, and I guess I was really desperate. I'd done a tiny bit of theatre, in repertory theatre, and I really wanted to do TV. So I literally walked down the corridors and just walked into any empty office. I'd go in, stick the picture and resume there, and then pick up some of their stationery and scribble "must see," and then an indistinguishable signature, and then put it on top of the thing. And I thought I probably did about a dozen of these before I sort of thought I'm going to need to get out of here before someone arrests me. Then it was like, well, I'll get a call soon, and the rest will be history. But I never got a call.
I don't know how the BBC works as far as auditioning and hiring actors. Does it work much of the same way it does in LA, where you need representation? Just kind of showing up doesn't really work.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, representation, and you need to probably read for specific parts if you've not got a track record. Now, you either get offered something, or if it's something you really want to do, you might do a self-tape, if there's a lot of people, kind of namey people going up for it. But yeah, I mean, it was kind of naive, but looking back, it amuses me because it was just so audacious.
Oh, I know people that would send in their headshots. They would just mail it in with just like,
oh yeah, that's the norm. That's the norm. But to actually break in there and put them on the desk and then pretend they're being recommended by somebody else at the BBC is just ridiculous. But yeah, I that fell short slightly.
How do you, since COVID happened, how do you feel that you're doing as far as auditioning when you have to do a tape instead of do it in person? Do you feel that that you do it better when you're in front of a casting director, or do you feel you're getting a better result with recording?
Yeah, I don't do an awful lot now because as I say, I either get, people know me well enough that I either get offered something, I'm sort of somewhere on the list, or if it's really up for grabs, or they've offered it to a name, but the name's probably not going to do it, they'll probably, sort of read 3 or 4 people, or maybe more, I don't know. So yeah, you've got more control over it, obviously, and you can see how it turns out, but it's a lot more work because you have to set up the camera, you have to set up everything. You can sort of learn it or not learn it. I can sometimes do it just reading off the screen and making it look like I've learned it. But I don't know. I don't particularly like it. I always felt stronger in the room. I was always able to command a room when I walked into it and did stuff. So it's a bit alien to me, but I guess it's the way of the world now.
What's been your thoughts on what is more rewarding to you, acting on screen or acting on stage?
Oh, I think I did a lot of stage work in the first 7-8 years of my career. It was pretty much all I did, and then I kind of burnt out a bit on theatre. I mean, I'd done I think 4 shows on Broadway, and I'd pretty much been doing 8 shows a week for 3 years solid in New York, either on Broadway or off Broadway, mostly on. And I was kind of tired, and I was kind of getting into my late 20s, and I really wanted to do television and film. And that's when I moved from New York and left what was kind of a pretty solid theatre career to gamble on film and TV, because I just I like theatre very much, but it is incredibly demanding in terms of your time and energy. And I always felt I could do something. I felt I was a bit more, I could do something subtler and more internal. than I was doing on stage. And I think I was a fairly decent stage actor, but it wasn't sort of my first love, really. I think I really always wanted to do film and TV.
If, say, when you moved and you took that gamble and it didn't pan out, what would you have wanted to do for the rest of your life if you hadn't?
Oh, I'd have been a stage actor and said, "Oh, who wants to do TV and films? I'm not selling out." Yeah, I'd have just been a kind of New York stage actor or a London stage actor if I'd gone back at that point in my life. And in England, you can progress slightly more organically from theatre to TV and films. Mm-hmm. But I'd already kind of made that move to a point that it was almost a point of no return, because I had little track record in England at that point, when I was in my late 20s or 20s. So yeah, it was, that would have probably been it. I would have just been a stage actor until TV and film came calling, if they ever did.
Speaking as someone that didn't make it, I had to fall back on something that wasn't even related to the entertainment industry for a long time. And yeah, well, I admire people that make it.
Well, it's so much of it's luck. It's I mean, I don't know. I mean, people say to me, you have a really successful career, and I'm thinking, have I? It seems pretty mediocre to me. It's a very lucrative career, certainly from writing, and then I look at the acting and I go, you know what? I've been an actor nonstop for 43 years. Got something like 100 and well over 120 credits on IMDb. So I think someone told me it was Rod Steiger, but I don't know who it's attributed. I must look it up and find out who actually said it. They said in show business, this was someone who was at the end of their life, and they said the only definition in show business of success is survival. And I think that's absolutely true. But it is completely, I think there's so much luck involved. I mean, I always believed that. It's so many people have talent. Talent is 10% of it. Mm-hmm. And so many people have that. And there's a lot of people that have know how to sell themselves. They've got good energy, and energy is a part of it, organization, all the things that are the business side of it are another probably 20% maybe. Mm-hmm. And then 60 to 70%, I'm losing track of my percentages now, but about 60%, if 2/3 of it, let's go to 2/3. 2/3 is really luck. It's luck. Mm-hmm. And I've had some terrific luck, and I've actually had some very near misses of things that would have probably jettisoned me into a higher stratosphere. And then, you do look at some people's careers, and it seems like straight out of drama school, they have the red carpet sort of laid out for them. But mm-hmm. I suspect they're also very talented. But as I said, so many people are talented. So it's I don't know. I wish I could explain it. It's an odd thing because, in professional sports, you go, well, there's talent and there's application. And if you have both, you're likely to be successful. And that's really the truth in professional sports. It's much more quantifiable. In the arts, painting, music, acting, whatever, it's far less quantifiable, and you are dependent so much on what you are physically to sell as an actor, if it's the right look, or you happen to be at the right time in the right place. So yeah, I can't stress that enough for people setting out, that you have to realize that you keep doing it, and you've got control over that every day. But you just have to know that there is an element of luck, and you have to do everything possible to reduce those odds. That's all you can do.
Do you think that since you do have your British accent, that gives you a little bit of a leg up in some situations? Because Americans are so obsessed with that accent.
Yeah, it definitely put me in a niche right away. In England, mm-hmm. I was sort of hard to pin down because I was not really a leading man when I was younger, oddly, because I've still got most of my hair and I'm not, the size of a house.
Yeah, I got that problem.
I mean, although those can help enormously too for being a character actor. But now I'm oddly, for my age, more of a leading kind of, I play the star's boyfriend or husband or whatever. So it's changed in that respect. What was the question again? Sorry.
Your accent, since Americans are obsessed with with the English
Yeah,
accent?
yeah. No, it definitely gave me a niche, and it kicked me off. And I think that helped to a point, but it's also been quite a hurdle in other ways. And especially now when so many British actors are being required to play Americans, it's quite difficult. And I mean, I can do a decent American accent now, but I still feel more comfortable, particularly in comedy, being British, because my timing is that it's so much of who I am. I didn't lose that. I mean, I've been here for 40 something years, and I still have my accent. I still am very British in my heart and probably American in my soul. I don't know what that means, but it sounded good.
What do you think is the hardest thing about the American accent to nail as far as the dialect is concerned?
Well, it's the middle America thing. It's tough, that Johnny Carson mid-America, I think a lot of English actors can do cartoon American acting. And mine, when I first started to try it, I definitely sounded something out of Hanna-Barbera. And my voice suddenly went 3 octaves lower. So hey, I'm talking like this, yeah, hey, how you doing? And all that. And then you go, well, no, this is ridiculous. That's a cartoon. So I think it's easier actually for Brits to do Southern, because it's something you can really hang your hat on quickly. And probably that's just as bad too. And we're floating from Louisiana to Texas to Alabama and everywhere in between, while we do
it. When you first got approached by Christopher Guest to be in Best in Show, you wrote that it was kind of a very loose kind of audition, and it was kind of floaty. Could you expand on that? How it wasn't really like a solid interview or
Chris doesn't audition people. Having worked with Chris on the other side of the table as a co-writer and a co-producer on later stuff, he doesn't audition people. He meets them and then gets a sense of whether they can improvise. He doesn't even ask them to improvise. And I had a meeting with him and Eugene, and it was Eugene's idea because I knew him socially. And I'd met Chris, I think, once or twice, very briefly socially. But I knew Eugene. And Eugene, they wanted to pair someone up with Fred Willard, who was going to be the straight man. And no one else in the troupe wanted to do it because they knew that they would he would be bouncing off the furniture and the walls. So it was Eugene's idea. So I think it'd be quite funny to have this boorish American kind of Joe Garagiola type who's just speaks before he thinks and is really ultimately very stupid, against a very well-spoken, educated and knowledgeable dog expert from England. And it was a very clever idea, and Chris obviously responded to it. But the interview was bizarre because both of them are quite, what's the right word? Socially awkward, shy, I don't know, but they're not comfortable, and they don't talk a lot. So I found myself sitting on the couch with them at their desks and sort of babbling because there would be these long pauses between, sentences or questions. And I found myself sort of babbling to fill the pauses and the uncomfortableness. And after about 10 minutes, I was thinking I'm just kind of digging myself a hole here. And I said to Chris, look, here is a tape, DVD of what I do. And if it works and it looks like it's in the right thing, I'd love to do it. And that was it. And I left thinking, driving home thinking, I don't know how could I have done that better? How could I don't know but it felt really like I hadn't really captured the room. Anyway, as I was driving, Chris called and in his very deadpan, low-key voice said, this is Christopher Guest. Would you like to be in the movie? And that was it. And then it turned out there was a bit of a complication after that because I was writing and producing a TV show in England that shot at the same time. And so there was some fair bit of juggling that went on for me to be able to do it.
I watched your scenes today from that movie as a little bit of a catch up. And when I read that you were having a hard time not laughing at what Fred Willard was saying, I started to focus in on your face and catching those little smirks where you suddenly just stop it. You just kind of nip it in the bud right before you could have broken up. And
it really worked though, because at first, that my character's sort of mildly amused and confused by him. And then as it goes on, he's slightly less amused and more really puzzled about how this guy could be doing this show with him. And then by the end, he's kind of annoyed. So I wanted to make that arc as we went, and Chris edited it together brilliantly to capture that. It was great that, having been sort of trodden on, and so I had to sit there listening to this drivel for, it was 25 minutes of the movie at least. I mean, the end of the movie. Then I finally stick the knife in his back when he cracks some dreadful joke again. And I just turned to him and said, yes, I remember you said that last year. And it just completely it was literally like the death rattle after that. And it worked because of that. But I was always polite. I never kind of reacted to it in any other way other than trying to be strictly professional.
And Christopher Guest has a great way of editing those films. Right when you get that dagger, he'll just stop. Yeah. The scene is over. There's no need to linger on it. It's just move on.
I remember Eugene saying to me, it's all sound bites. When you do the improv and you'll do a scene, and Chris has about 50, 60, I think it's 60 hours of material, which he has to get down to around 88, 90 minutes tops. So that's a hell of a lot of material. So ultimately, it's going to be the best hits of any scene, and it's sound bites. So you just got to know that an awful lot of what you do in that scene is not going to end up in the movie, because it can't be. Otherwise, the movie would be a never-ending miniseries.
Unfortunately, you didn't get to be that quippy in Mighty Wind, but you did get a couple great scenes with Eugene Levy as Mitch.
It was a very different character. I mean, I was slightly more of the boorish, saying the wrong things, and garrulous, not afraid to say anything, but was a very tedious man whose hobbies were model trains, and he sold catheters for a living. And that was fun in a different way, because I could go on long rambles that were kind of shocking, because people were sort of like, what? And I was proud of that speech I did at the dinner table about intricate. It was a long speech about the intricacies of catheters and how they can, why bladders leak, from impacted fecal matter pressing on your rectum. And Catherine says, "Oh, I think this is probably better for another time. It's not really table
dessert talk."
Yes, not really. And Eugene just looks sort of wide-eyed, stunned across the table. So it was like I was able to actually switch hats in that and be less of the reactor and more of the pro-actor. Yeah.
And you actually you captured what I work with a lot of medical professionals, and they will ramble on about a medicine and its side effects in the most inopportune times. In the middle of dinner, or in the middle of like a family, like on Christmas Day, suddenly go into a spiel about something that you really should be talking about in front of like children. And it happens. That's what people do that work in that profession. They just can't divorce the subject matter from the rest of their lives. It just comes together.
You don't want to have Thanksgiving with a gynecological surgeon. That's
I don't want to think about the hand that's been stuffing a turkey has been stuffing.
Yes. The turkey baster gets a whole new meaning.
For people that are looking to get into the industry, young people, not people like my age, your age, or just trying to figure it out, but young people that don't have the experience, what would you say would be the best avenue for them to try to break into Hollywood?
I give the same advice to people that I've always given through. I mean, it hasn't really changed. I think you've got to have a solid backing in theatre, and you've got to have solid training. And obviously, in this country, if you've been to Yale or Juilliard and done drama, you've got a leg up right away. There's a few other places too, but that will help. And then I would say pursue theatre, even though theatre is sort of obviously slightly diminished from when I was young and starting out. There's a lot less theatres and there's a lot less plays done, then more musicals. But I think get that kind of experience, even if it's small theatres, just get in front of get comfortable in front of an audience, get comfortable being able to do that, because then television and film will seem much easier. It's much more piecemeal, and I say easier, it's actually quite hard sometimes because you're doing things out of sequence, but I think there's very few stage actors who can't act on television and film. Some come across too big and it doesn't work, but some make the adjustment. But I think that would always be my advice, is get that, because almost all the people that have had careers like mine that have actually extended 4 decades come from the theatre. It's the people who come straight from film school or whatever they've gone, and it's sort of 20, they go into a series, and then after that it's like, okay, what do you do now? And some survive without having done that grounding, but I'd say as a safety net, you should do that.
When you say get theater experience, is there a specific type of theater?
Any type of
or
theater, any type of theater, anything. Yeah, no, I mean, Shakespearean theater doesn't really help you for most things now. It's fine. If you can master that, you can probably master modern stuff and contemporary stuff. So yeah, that would absolutely be my advice. And be innovative. I mean, I think also we have a theory that we've been through the industrial age. We're sort of still in the technology age, but I think we're entering, if socially speaking, and career-wise, we're entering the entrepreneurial age. So, for a budding director, make your own movie. You can do it now with an iPhone. You can just pick up your phone and make a movie now. So that's, you just do it. And the same with acting or writing, just do it. Get it out there. Be entrepreneurial, because no one else is going to sell you like you can sell yourself. However much you hate being a salesman, you've got to do it. And it's alien to a lot of creative people selling, but it is show business, not show. It's show business. So you've got to treat it like a business and be very, very ruthless about that.
Do you feel that you fulfilled that need in yourself to be an actor? Have you accomplished everything you want to, or is there something that is still within your grasp that you want to try to?
I think luckily there is still stuff, because if there wasn't, I would be sitting in the south of France, probably drinking a lot of wine and eating baguettes and chocolate croissants all day. I think that I have done a wider variety of things than I've ever imagined. From the leads in small independent movies to smaller parts in big studio movies, 2 of which were the biggest movies of that year in box office. I've written, I have had my own series on the air as a writer and producer. I've had movies made that I never, big movies. The Tooth Fairy Fox movie was a big movie, and it's a studio movie, and I never in a million years thought I would write and produce something like that. So that's been wonderful. The one thing I haven't done, and it's astonishing when I look at my contemporaries and people who've had similar careers in terms of an actor, I've never been a regular on a TV show. I've been a recurring character, and I've recurred on, numerous shows, but never really done more than anywhere from 6 to 8 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
I guess Family Tree, I was a regular, but that only did 1 season. So ended up being 5 episodes out of the 8 that I was in. But I've never, and I had to write that myself. So I've never actually done that. And the idea of living with a character for several years appeals to me, to be on a long running show. And it doesn't, drama, comedy, it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm doing probably more drama now, or as much as I am doing comedy. The last 2 things I've done were supernatural thrillers, the Haunting of Bly Manor, and then The Queen Mary, which I just finished shooting in November. So, yeah, I mean, that would be the thing. If someone could kindly just put me on a long-running series.
You'd want to be like the George Costanza in Seinfeld, or
exactly.
something. 8 or 10 seasons of just being that guy.
Exactly. What's his name in Everybody Loves Raymond? Somebody Boyle. I've forgotten his first name.
Yeah, I totally forgot. I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, he played the father or whatever, or something. He played the older. And yeah, that's perfect now for me. And listen, I don't need more than 2 or 3 scenes per episode, and preferably sitting down. And preferably all sitting down. I'll play a character in a wheelchair, then I have to be sitting down. But that would be great. That would be perfect. And that would be, then I'd feel I haven't really missed out on anything. Because, I mean, bar being a movie star, which I think is probably a bit late now, reality check. That's the only thing. the number of people that get to be movie stars are infinitesimal. So I don't feel cheated out of that one.
You don't want to retire and start doing the convention circuit, just sitting there and just signing autographs for 8 or 10 hours.
I went to one of those recently because my infinitely better half was in a film called League of Their Own, and that's a big, that they have quite a few events like that, and she did one of those autograph things, and I actually came back to Chris and said that this is a movie, but it would be a depressing movie. And they sort of did it with that Galaxy Quest. They kind of started, didn't they, in a thing. And that kind of was a very good premise for it. I found it profoundly disturbing. And I get it why people do it. The money's really good. And you just sit on your ass signing, photos. I mean, how hard is that? But to me, it feels, I'll tell you why the book was hard for me to write. And the only reason it got written was because of the pandemic. I always look forward. I tend to always look forward in my life. And at the very nearest I'm living right now, right in front of me. So to look backwards, to turn around and go, okay, let's look at the road that I've traveled and write about that was not within my instincts. I did it, and it was very therapeutic and very helpful in many ways. As I think a lot of people found the pandemic, being in lockdown, you got time to reflect and reset and really think about where you've come. And particularly someone in my age, entering my 60s, it was a perfect time to do that. So I didn't resent not being able to go out there and be doing it. It was like, okay, I take this as a sabbatical that at the end of my life, I'll say, thank God I had that sabbatical. I got off the merry-go-round for a year and had that privilege. Very different if you're younger, trying to make your way in the world. Very different if you're living in an apartment somewhere in a big city with kids and you've got to educate them. Very different. So I was entirely privileged living, up in the hills here in Hollywood and with a nice piece of land that I could be enclosed and not worry about ever going out. And that was incredibly privileged, but yeah, that provided me the opportunity to write the book.
And speaking of the book, well, when will it be out? When will people be able to?
March 23rd. It is the release date. It is the ebook. You can pre-order right now on Amazon and various other outlets, all the usual. And the pre-order for the the print copy and the audiobook is March 13th. You can start pre-ordering that.
Did you narrate the audiobook yourself?
I did, yeah. I finished that. I finished that a couple of weeks ago. That was hard work. Boy, that was hard work. I mean, I've done a lot of voiceovers, but I've only done a short book for Disney. I've never done books on tape or audiobooks. And it was, and I was sort of editing it and engineering it myself because I recorded it at home in my studio here, my makeshift studio in my walk-in closet. So it was a lot cheaper to produce because I didn't have to pay an actor to play me or an engineer. Of course, it had to then go to a sound engineer to edit it and make it properly sound decent. But God, it was hard work. I mean, 7 or 8 hours a day. And what I learned through that was how much my stomach rumbles, first of all, during the course of a day, which would mean, okay, let's start that again because the rumble, you can hear it on the thing. How many planes and helicopters go above? How many neighbors and have gardeners with leaf blowers? It was like one day I said to Annie, my other half, I said, I'm having to stop every 5 minutes. I mean, you can look at the tape, this clip here of like, I get 3 lines out and then I have to stop because either my stomach's rumbling or somebody's doing something. So it was a lot of hurdles.
I was on set for a Netflix production up in Vancouver, and the studio was right next to an elevated train. So production would start and stop for like 5 minutes at a time. I don't know how they got through filming everything they needed to for the series, but you just hear them just cut, stop, L train's going by every 5 minutes.
Well, unless it's deafening, I've always felt when they say hold for a plane, and you have to keep doing that when you're shooting on location outdoors. I've always felt, unless it's a period piece where there aren't planes flying over in 17th century England, I always feel unless it's really loud and you can't hear the actors, that's just part of the natural ambience that we live in now. So I never quite understood why everyone got so obsessive about having to hold for the plane or hold for whatever.
Well, this was for Lost in Space, so it wouldn't make much sense to hear
that
an
would
L
be
train.
Weird. That would be weird to have a train in space. That would be sort of odd. Yeah. Where are you located, by the way?
Me, I'm in Florida.
Oh, you're in Florida. And what is your shirt?
Oh, it's Manchester.
Manchester
Football Club.
It's not United, though, is it?
No. This was just a gift from a friend.
Yeah, I was like, it's football. It's a football.
Yeah, it's definitely football. Yeah.
But it's not Manchester United or Manchester City. I think it may be Manchester FC, who are, have about 2 people in their stands.
Maybe that's why it was a gift. Someone just wanted to get rid of it.
Well, if you go there, you'll have no trouble getting tickets.
My last question, if your biography were to be made into a movie, who would you want to play you?
I think Whoopi Goldberg would be absolutely dead on. I mean, we're always up for the same stuff. Her and Jackie Chan, we always seem to be up in the same room waiting, going, oh no, not you again. I think if I was, it'd have to be me, wouldn't it? I mean, it'd have to be me. It would be really strange. And this, obviously, you have to get someone to play young me. Mm-hmm. I don't know who'd play young me. I'd have to look and see. Have to have extensive auditions to see who could be this.
maybe Carl Urban or.
Well, Carl Urban's
Eric
not
Bana,
that
maybe.
much. He's not that much younger than me. I mean, he is. He's definitely younger, and he's got the worst fucking English accent I've ever heard. I'm sorry, Carl, but you're a terrific actor, but your English accent really sucks.
Well, he tried his best with his American one, but for some reason, at the end of every word that ended with an A, there was an R at the end of it. So American R.
Well, if he's listening to this, we'll have a voice off, and he can get me to do Australian and see how bad I am.
You've been listening to the Sixth Sense Media Podcast. You can find more of our celebrity, composer, musician, and filmmaker interviews, as well as pop culture roundtable discussions on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Pandora. Be sure to check out our vast library of entertainment industry coverage, including on-set reporting from your favorite TV series and movies at sixthsense.com.